What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. This, of course, is TWA Motorsports, and you can see I'm already sweating. Been out here doing some stuff on the Trans Am, guys, and this is kind of a sad video for some of the ones that wanted to see the twin turbo kit come together, guys. We are pulling the plug on that and going a completely different direction. Now, before anybody's like freaks out and's like, man, here we go again, this car's gonna set for another 3 years. It is not gonna set for another 3 years. That's another reason, one of the reasons why I'm ready to pull the plug. We're just gonna go a completely different direction. I'm thinking just get it running NA right now and maybe do a Procharger later, something that's bolt on, easy to access. And look, guys, before anybody screams, oh, the kit's bad or not, no, there's nothing wrong with the kit. There's just some stuff that I'm not willing to cut up in order to make this work. Now, John has been great at Hair on Speed. There's nothing against John. He is every time I've reached out to him and had an issue, he's immediately tagged me back and gave me tips and pointers. And so definitely we'll be doing business with John down the road. But guys, there's a couple things that are keeping me up at night about this car. Like I said, one of them being having to cut so much stuff. This kit was appealing to me because we could keep the AC, we could keep the low mount alternator. We didn't have to ditch any of the factory components, but here is where my issues are. It is so close, right? It is such a close and tight fitment that I'm just concerned if anything breaks, I'm gonna have to pull this thing back apart, and I just want something that's really easy to keep maintenanced and no issues. And chances are this probably would be fine, and I'm reading too much into it, but it's just, we got to cut some of the front bumper off, which I don't love. We got to cut some of the factory plastics, which I don't love. And so I'm to the point where, like I said, it's keeping me up at night. It's making me crazy. It's putting me in a bad mood. And guys, I don't need that right now. I just don't. So we're going to be taking this out. But in this video, you're going to see another thing, which is we are going to be running new brake lines. I actually started filming, got the A-arms, upper and lowers in, the coilovers back in, got everything torqued down, started to run the brake lines. You can see the old ones wadded up over there. I couldn't stand the way they were fitting. And so we need to run new brake lines. But before we do that, we need to get the new K-member in. So in order to do that, we got to get the old stuff out. So we're going to be taking this back out the exact same way we took out the other. And that's probably where I'll cut to, guys. You saw me put this in. We're just going to reverse that process, get this motor and trans out and kind of over here, back where it was at. And then once we do that, we'll grab the new K-member, which is actually a different brand, guys. And we'll talk about that later. We'll get that in with the lower new, because I'm selling all this is a one unit. So the K-member is going to go with the turbo kit because it's built for the turbo kit. The lowers and whatnot are all going to go together as one unit. And so I ordered some new lower A-arms, a new K-member to put in this, but we need to get that in, and then we need to route our brake lines. So I'm going to be showing you that process a little later on in this video. So yes, guys, this is for sale. I've listed it. Some of you have probably already seen it. I listed it well, a couple days ago now, and it may or may not be for sale at this point. I don't know when I'm going to post this video, but $7,200 is what I'm losing money with that. This kit is $6,500 to buy, and then that does not come with the K-member. It does not come with the lower A-arms. It does not come with the starter. And so, guys, the starter by itself is like 350 bucks. The A-arms are about 600, and let's call the K-member about 600 to 650. So maybe I'm kind of high. I don't know. The other thing I'm going to be including with it is the oil pan, since it's already welded. I've got those fittings welded in there. We're going to be replacing the oil pan with another stock unit. So we got a lot to do in this video. So, guys, no naysayers, okay? In the comments. I know that people are wrecked about this or they don't like it, but it is what it is. So let's get started. Well, after about 30 minutes, it is out. So, okay, I'm going to, we'll maybe work on that, taking those turbos off later. But for now, let's go grab the new K-member. Let's talk about the differences. And ultimately, guys, I'm not using an aftermarket K-member because I want to. It's because I sold the original one when this whole process started. So to a guy that was wanting to do a V8 swap. So we have to put a different one in, and instead of going with another stock one, trying to find a crusty one at a salvage yard or used or something, I figured might as well take this time to do that. However, I am going to go to a different control arm that is not a tubular control arm, just a stock replacement, because I sold those with the bottom. Now we've got the stock uppers in place. I left those with the coilovers attached, so all I did was disconnect the bottom and the upper tie rod, and then we just brought this all out as one unit. So let's go grab the K-member and get it into place. So we've got a new K-member. We've got new lower A-arms. And guys, so here's the plan. We went from the BMR brand, which is what was designed for this kit, to a UMI. Now the UMI is a little more stout, but look guys, it's not having to house a K-member. So you'll notice a couple differences. One being there's a double tube design in the center. And I've never used a lot of UMI stuff. I've used a couple of their lower control arms and whatnot, the rear lower control arms back in the past, but this one looked pretty beefy to me and I liked the setup. And so this is ultimately what I chose to get. Now, I also chose to get with a mevotech lower A-arm. And here's the main reason, guys. I was never a huge fan of the lowers. Look, if these don't work out, we can always go to a UMI lower, but ultimately I just don't want a bunch of noise out of this car. This is kind of playing more into why I'm, not going with the turbo option. You can see we've got the motor out obviously, but the new UMI K-member comes like this. I just unwrapped it actually. It comes with new 4 bolts to go in these guys here. And then the washers are gonna go here just like the ones did before, and then we'll use the factory bolts to retain the back. But ultimately, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go ahead and just lay on my back and put that up into place and get it started. And then we will know where we need to route our brake lines, kind of to keep out of the way of everything. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mount that. Then we're gonna mount our lower control arms. We're gonna mount our spindles and brakes back, put everything back up into place without the motor on it. That'll give me ample room to run brake lines. And so that's ultimately what we're wanting to get accomplished here. Once we do that, then obviously we're gonna move this off of that K-member and get everything moved over to this. Now this does use the older style clamshell motor mounts, whereas that one bolted directly on the side and your bushing was down at the bottom. They're like a stand style mount. And that's to give you more room, for turbo routing and whatnot. But guys, look, nothing against BMR either. I just liked the design of this a little better. And so I wanted to give it a shot. I've never used this from UMI. So we're gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna get under here, get it cinched down, and then I'll show you guys once we get it in place, both under the hood and maybe on the side here. And then I didn't buy any new bolts. I bought new bolts when I did this, but I'm gonna rob the bolts out of the lower A-arms there, move them over to this because you can reuse your stock ones if you still have those laying around, and we'll see what we got. So you can see I've got the new K-member in, but you can also see that I have the A-arms off of this on there, and here's why, guys. The ones that are sitting over there in the bags, the mevotechs, or mevotech, I don't know how you pronounce it, but they don't fit this K-member. UMI, BMR, all the companies that make these aftermarket K-members say that they fit. A stock one will. And so on the BMR one, it does fit. And here's where I'm running into the interference. So I just want you guys to know, if you're looking to do this, see how open this is right here? Well, it has the ability to articulate, right? Well, on this one, if you notice, there's an additional bar that runs down here. And so what this does is this right here, this area here, interferes with the top side of your stock lower A-arm. Now, look, I don't know if you could probably trim it or do something else, but ultimately, guys, I've decided we're just gonna roll with this and see what happens. I don't know any better way. I'm not gonna trim those new A-arms if I can send them back, since I'm not gonna use them. But I've got the BMR ones in here, and guys, these are almost identical to the UMI ones. So maybe down the road, if these start making noise, we may have to figure something out. They are Teflon lined up here. I did have to adjust them a little bit to get them into place, but we are in place. I am gonna have to reverse this bolt though, I believe. I think that threading is gonna have to come out on the bottom, but aside from that, it is in, and the K-member actually bolts up and fits great. There's not an alignment dowel like the BMR one has. So this guy right here, there isn't one of those on this. So I don't know if I'm sure they build all these in a jig, but it fits really well. Actually, it fits a little better than that one did, even loosely, right? So without a motor on it. Now that one fit, don't get me wrong, but these back holes where you use the stock bolts, it didn't line up as well on the BMR one. So this one lines up good. Guys, look, I don't know about my alignment. It may be a freaking nightmare to get this thing aligned. I have no idea. But either way, we've got in what we need to do. And so now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and grab our spindles, our brakes, and get those hung on here, get the shock, the bottom of the shock bolted up. And I ended up, so I didn't show you guys this, but I put the K-member in and then tried to slide the A-arms in. That didn't work because my strut was in the way. So just so you guys know, it may be more beneficial if you don't have this all apart to take the strut out. I've already torqued all the top of the strut. I really don't want to take it back out again. So it wasn't that big a deal. I just dropped the K-member again, put it over here on my towels, put the A-arms in and got it up in place. But either way, I'm gonna go ahead, put all this stuff back in place, the brakes and whatnot, and then we can look at running our actual brake lines. Let's catch up on what I did here. So I mounted this spindle in place just to see kind of where my brake line needed to go. And then I took it back off to give me more room, but you can see I actually mounted this on the bottom, right? So normally it mounts up in the top and it's really close right here from the factory. And since we're making all new lines, I don't need that. So I mounted these on both sides facing just like this. So you can see it's on the bottom. The plate is actually mounted on the top. I found a nut and a bolt and washers and it is secured, right? It's not going anywhere. So now I need to make a line that comes out of here and goes into my T. And I'm gonna have to obviously make a longer one for the other side, but I wanna show you my T fitting. You can see it right there. So I don't have real far to go, just up and under to get to the T here, but then a long one to go to the other side. But I wanna talk about what I'm gonna be using. I'm using this Nico is what the line's called. And it's really easy to bend. You can see I put a bend on it just to see, you know, how close I could get things. So what I'm gonna do is I think I'm actually gonna use that piece if I can get my fitting on there and get it flared. And then from there, we're gonna obviously have to cut it. And I went ahead and straightened this piece. I've got a straightener and I've also got a really good bender or flaring tool. So this guy here is my flaring tool. And then this is my tubing straightener. And I'll list both these in the description down below. Guys, this right here is the coolest thing ever made. I don't know how I did it without that stuff. But either way, I'm gonna see if I can get, you know, kind of hand formed into place. This line, this stuff is super easy to bend. It's what I used on my 55 right there. And I was able to just bend it by hand. So I definitely recommend this. It's supposed to be super solid. Let's give it a shot. Let's show you how this works. So the very first thing you do is loosely with this fit into place your block for a 3/16 flare. You push this guy in and flush it up. That's what the first step is. And then we cinch it down, which I've got. And then we are going to turn to step 1 of a 3/16, which is this guy here. We pull this back and you can do it a couple times if you'd like. Okay, and then we go to step 2, which is right here. And I generally do it twice, and that's it. We now have a really nice flare. I'll pull it out of here and show you guys if I can do it with one hand. Thought I could. Look at the flare. It's insane. I can't even believe I did this by hand before, but I couldn't. I was going to use that bent piece on the end, but guys, I couldn't get this on there. So what I'm going to have to do is we'll have to bend it after the flare, as you can see. So let's put it in there. And like I said, I'll just keep checking back in with you guys, showing you kind of how it's going. But man, look at that. Awesome. Let's take a look at what we got after bending some brake lines. So you can see my T here. I did take that metal, see the protector that goes over the brake lines and the fuel lines. I took that off just to give me some more room. And I was having issues with my T fitting here. I don't know, one of them was messed up. I had to replace one of the sides. But either way, I've got the hard line going out to the driver's side, and then I ran one to the passenger side. The cool thing about this stuff, guys, is you can just bend it by hand. Very easy to bend. I think this looks way better than the old jumbled up factory lines, rebending those. I mean, look, if they're in good shape, I guess you can do that. But yeah, I've got them snugged up here. And then I did go ahead, even though I don't have the calipers on, I put the line here. And I think the next step, guys, is we're going to just test them. And when I say test them, I'm going to put some fluid in it. I'm going to make sure I don't have any leaks up here and all this stuff that we put in. Now, look, I know I did this at another time, but it's got a proportion valve. We remove the ABS. So this proportion valve's for the rear, and it has line lock for the front. This is a kit that I ordered long time ago, actually before I even started YouTube, and I just never put it on the car. So this is a line lock kit, and so we're tied in, but there's a lot of connections that we just want to make sure there's no leaks on. So that's the next step, is to get the brakes on. I've got to order some new crush washers for the calipers, but then once we get those in place, we'll bleed these brakes and see if we got all our, well, hopefully no leaks anyway. Now I went ahead and put our brake lines, so I hooked our brake lines up, and I know this one's kind of slid over, it's just because of the weight, but got the lines hooked up. Obviously we got the new lines made, so now guys, what I'm going to do is we are going to put fluid in this thing. I'm going to hook up my pressurizer, and we're going to just let it set with pressure on it, see if it bleeds off. We're going to check for any leaks around these areas. So let me get this thing topped off with fluid. We will get the pressure tank, which I'll show you guys. I really love that tool, and we'll give it a shot. So here's the setup. This is, you guys have no idea, like bleeding brakes by yourself. If you can get a good seating position on this, this tool is amazing. So you've got a GM. I bought this actually back when my wife had her Audi, and there's another connection for like imports, but the GM fitting's on there, and I opted to go with the billet one because it just holds up better, especially to brake fluid. But what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to pump this up to about, I want to say it's like 40 psi. It's right in the middle. I don't remember which setting. No, sorry, 12. We'll pump it up to about 12, and we'll let it set. And that'll tell us a couple things. One, it's going to push fluid out somewhere, but it will bleed off. The pressure will bleed off. Well, it's a good sign that it has held pressure for a couple of minutes now. So here's what we're going to do, guys. We are going to, I think we're going to end this video right here. We've got everything accomplished that I wanted to get accomplished in this video. We got the new brake lines ran. We've tested it. I'm going to continue to leave it on here. I may even leave it on overnight and see how much pressure it drops overnight. But yes, in the next video, guys, we are hopefully going to be probably working on this engine and getting the old turbos off, and hopefully getting some new parts on the way it is going to go back in the car. But ultimately, I wanted to get this accomplished because it's so hard to run brake lines with the engine in the way, you know, trying to work in tight areas. To me, this is a better way of doing it. Now, is it going to make a bigger mess? Absolutely, because when we unhook all this and go to, you know, unhook the K-member, hook it to the motor, because I'm planning on doing the motor installed the exact same way you guys saw in previous videos where I put it in from the bottom. That's the plan. So the only disconnection points I'm going to have to make are on the caliper, obviously, and then this T-fitting right here. So, but those are the biggest areas I was worried about because I made new lines. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, what do they need to do?
Subscribe and make sure to ring that bell icon.
That is right. Subscribe. Hit the bell icon, guys. While you're down there, go check out twamotorsports.com. Pick yourself up a sticker, a key tag, a t-shirt, and stay tuned to see what we work on next.